All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Trading Psychology Mastery course and Mindset Mastery, frankly, Lesson 4. Today's lesson, we're going to focus on empowerment for change. What we're going to do tonight is open the mind up, and this will be one of the last lessons where we work on mindset, and then we're going to transition with next week on the trading sabotage cycle that we've put together and how to exit and terminate that cycle for yourself with some real tangible exercises and methods. So the way I planned it out is when you hit a certain moment, how to exit that with a very specific exercise. This all leads up to a big, massive aha moment at the end, so stick with the process. Tonight we're going to talk about empowerment for change. We have some great content, some exercise-driven material. We have some videos. We have the whole works, so it's going to be an awesome session tonight. All right, let's get started first and foremost by telling you what you're going to learn. You're going to learn how to remove the trading fears using time. We have 2 more to do. The same exercise we did last class. I'm going to give you guys a resource anchor to power up, and I'm going to give you an exercise, a simple mind shift technique that could change everything for you. How to build what you want, and I'm going to show you a really cool video and the superhero pattern. All right, so I got some cool stuff. Throughout the session, I'm going to ask some of you to participate, and if you have volunteers, please say yes. It's going to be text participation tonight. I might need anyone to go on the microphone. So if you're thinking about it, when the time comes and ask for volunteer, please step up to the plate. You'll get a lot out of this. All right, so let's review everything we've done so far in the course. And I want to ask you guys, starting now, if you could just put yes or just a Y in the box if you've done every or any one of these things as we go along. So who's made the decision up until this point to live at cause in day-to-day life? Who goes through their day differently after starting this course and looks for the reason that they're at cause for every single thing that happens to them? Who's doing that now? Okay, perfect. That's really good. That shift alone gives you all the power in the world. Remember, when you live at cause, you live in a place of power. You don't give your power away from somebody. You regain your power and your ability to change. So that's the prime and most important thing. If I find somebody doesn't live at cause in one-on-one sessions, I don't work with them. It's not worth it. All right, step number 2, lean testing to uncover some of your subconscious beliefs. After that lesson, who's applied some of those lean testing principles to see what they really believe on a subconscious level or an unconscious level? Remember, those terms are interchangeable. Amazing. All right. That's really good. You guys are awesome. Somebody said definitely go through the day differently. That's really good feedback. I really appreciate that. It's good to know you guys are applying this. Who's doing a gratitude journal? Are you guys taking advantage of putting together a gratitude journal every night? Me and my fiance do it every single night. We tell each other 3 things we're grateful for. 1 experience, 1 person, 1 materialistic thing. Amazing. Daily, in the morning, even better, morning, evening, everything's the same. Who's practicing the Hakalal state of expanded awareness, the one state that the Hawaiians knew as a secret where they accomplished a lot in? Who's applying it to their trading? Does anyone try to trade from this Hakalal state? Doesn't it make such a difference? Don't you experience reality in a different it's almost like a different dimension that you experience it from. I use this on a daily basis, especially when I get a little worked up or emotional. That really slows things down for you. Thank you for being honest. Sometimes. That's great. That's a great start. Sometimes it's better than never. Who's using the Ring of Power that we learned last week? Did anyone try it? Did it work for you? Thank you for your honesty. Somebody said flat out no. I don't like that ring. I couldn't get the Ring of Power to work. That's fair. I tried. All right. That's amazing. That's honest feedback as well. What you could do is re-listen to it and try to get it to work. And if it doesn't work, it's just not for you. Not everything is for every one of you. That's why some of this stuff, creating a course out of it, it doesn't work for everyone in the same way. And sometimes the way you build up to it is what actually makes it work. So I get you to try it again, maybe in a different mind state. All right, so today we're going to start off with time techniques. We're going to do the same thing that we finished off with. I wanted to do time technique for 2 other things to heal and to clear. So the first time technique, before we do it, let me remind you as I read the script once again that the position that we call A, I'm not going to read out the letter, but when I say a timeline, everybody visualizes their life in some certain way. The timeline doesn't have to be straight. Some people's past could be like this, the future is like that, or it could twirl. It could do all kinds of crazy stuff. The important part is that you see one and it's unique to you. So when we say float above, if there's events happening here that you could see, we don't say go into the event, we say float above them. Just look down upon that event from a position where you're not getting pulled into the event. The purpose is not to relive anything on your timeline, it's just to observe it. All right. And then before the event, this is the other position that we talk about. All right. And we're here now. So when we travel back on this timeline, we go to a certain event above it, and then this is the position before it. Does this make sense? All right. Remember, float above the event. If any of these things bring out vivid emotion for you guys in a negative way, stop doing it, because there's potential to associate into some bad energy. You don't want that. All right, so we're going to release the fear of loss. We're going to get started right away today with doing the fear of loss release, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up the script. If you guys give me 1 second. The first question I guess I want to ask you before we do that, though, is what causes you fear about loss? My screen hasn't changed. That's not really good at all. There we go. Now you should see it. Thank you for your for the heads up. This is what I was showing you, the events before. So this is now we're going back to a certain event. We float above it. And then this is before the event above it as well. All right. What causes you fear about loss? We're going to kind of just pick at this a little bit because I know we've done it before, but I want to reopen that. Does anyone want to share what causes them fear about loss? In particular to trading, it could be whatever it means to you. Somebody says loss, how? Loss, whatever it means to you. All right, lack, that's interesting. Being a failure, having to work more years, not having a profitable day, wasted time, self-confidence. Okay, amazing. So all this time learning the trade for nothing, lack of resources. Amazing, good stuff. Okay, so whatever you said, whatever that means to you, we'll go with that. Remember, as I read these scripts, make it individual. Don't question it. So are you guys ready? I'm ready. So I'm going to read this twice. All right. Is it all right with your unconscious mind? If you guys don't mind just closing your eyes, it makes it easier. Is it all right with your unconscious mind for you to release this fear of loss and for you to be consciously aware of it now? Good. Ask your unconscious, what is the root cause of this problem of fear of loss when disconnected will cause a problem to totally disappear? If you were to know, was it before, during, or after your birth? All right? So just go ahead and get in touch with your timeline now. Float above your timeline so that you're above the moment of now and above all the memories on the timeline, and turn around and face that past. And staying well above all those memories, go ahead and float back into the past above the event when you felt the fear of loss. And when you get there, just notice the event and give yourself a nod. Floating there directly over the event and looking down on it, just ask your unconscious mind what it needs to learn from this event, the learning of which will allow you to let go of the fear of loss easily and effortlessly. Your unconscious mind could preserve these learnings so that if it needs them in the future, they'll be there to protect you, to help you make good choices, and to serve you. When you've got the learnings now, please let me know. Now, go ahead and float back before the event, well before the event when you first had the fear of loss, and above that event, and turn around to face the future. So the event is in front of you and way down below you. Now ask yourself, where is that old feeling of the fear of loss? Is it there, or is it just gone now? Now, come back to now over your timeline only as quickly as you could let go of all the fear of loss, all the way back to now, and stop at position B, right before the event where there used to be the fear of loss. and apply the learning and let go of the fear of the loss all the way back to now. Remember, at the unconscious level, time's experienced differently. So your unconscious could take as little time as it wants. Just let go of the fear of loss all the way back to now. And when you get back to now, go ahead and float down into now and come back into the room. And now we test it. Can you remember a time in the past where you used to be able to feel the fear of loss? Go back there now and just check to make sure the fear of loss is gone now. Good. Come back to now. So you guys can open your eyes. And let's go out, and this is called a future pace or a future test. Go out to a time in the future, which if it would have happened in the past before we did this technique, you would have felt inappropriate or unwarranted fear of loss. And notice how it's different now. All right, good. Come back to now. All right, great. That's good feedback. We'll do the next one a little bit slower. Was that a little bit fast? Before we do the second one, I want you guys to kind of close your eyes and see that timeline again. Let's just get in touch with the timeline because it's been about a week, and I'm not sure if we've all practiced it, and if you haven't, sometimes it's hard to kind of get in touch with it. So let's do this before we do the next one. What I'd like you to do now is to just go ahead and close your eyes and think of your timeline. Now, when I say timeline, I don't only mean something you see, because in a moment I'm going to ask you to float above it. And by float, I also mean as sound waves float on the wind, or as you might float in a pool or bathtub. However you imagine your timeline is just perfect because it's yours. So go ahead now and just float above your timeline, making sure to look through your own eyes instead of seeing yourself floating. Now stay up above your timeline, and I'd like you to just turn and face the past. Just turn so you're facing your past and float back into the past. At the unconscious level, there is no concept of time, so your unconscious could take you there as quickly as it likes. You could take as much or as little time as you'd like. Just go ahead and float right back into the past as far as you'd like. Good. Now go ahead and turn back around towards now, facing the future, and just go ahead and float right out into the future. Remember, at the unconscious level, there is no concept of time, so you could take as much or as little time as you'd like. Just go ahead and float right into the future as far as you'd like, and give yourself a nod when you're there. Good. Now turn around and face now. So you're facing back into the past. And now I want you to float way up into the air. In fact, float so high that your entire timeline seems to be only an inch long. And when you're there, just go ahead and float all the way back down to now. Just float back down into now and come back into the room. How was that, guys? Does anyone have a different timeline? Yeah, the fear of loss is a tough one. So when I asked a lot of people, they said, fear of loss regarding trading, and we gave some answers that I felt were fine. If there's like a loss that's a lot deeper, then you need to do 2 other ones before it. And I don't feel safe doing them via recorded webinar, so that's why we're not doing them. All right, let's do this last one, and we'll move on to the next exercise. We got a lot of exercises today. That's the exciting stuff. All right, the next one we're going to do is a belief that money makes you bad. Does anyone have this belief here in the webinar? Does anyone have the belief that money either makes you bad, or that you don't deserve money, or money's not for you, or that when you get money, things will change? Okay, that's good. I appreciate the honesty for those that said yes. So let's work with this one because this one's very important. Money at the end of the day is just energy. It's just an exchange of energy. So when you think about money, let's do this, and whatever it means to you, we're going to go back to that moment where it first formed the notion that it makes you bad. When I ask people this in one-on-one sessions, I said, was it before, during, or after your birth? when somebody says before, it could actually be before you were born. All right. And the question would be, good, was it in the womb or before that? If they say after, you say good, if you were to know at what age. All right. So when you go back to this moment, I want you to think of a specific time. And I don't want you to think logically where you're like, oh, well, when I was 3, I saw somebody make a lot of money, and don't think, it just comes. It should just pop at the top of your mind, like just snapping your fingers. It should just float up. All right, so let's do this again. Close your eyes. Is it all right with your unconscious mind for you to release the belief that money makes you bad and for you to be consciously aware of it now? Good. Ask your unconscious, what is the root cause of this problem, which when disconnected will cause the problem to totally disappear? If you were to know, was it before, during, or after your birth? If it's after, at what age? Specifically. All right, so just go ahead and get in touch with your timeline now. Float above your timeline so that you're above the moment of now and above all the memories on the timeline, and turn around and face that past. And staying well above all those memories, go ahead and float back into the past, above the event when you first believed that money makes you bad. All right, perfect. And staying well above all those memories, go ahead and float back to that moment a little bit higher. Just notice the event and give yourself a nod. Floating there directly over the event and looking down on it, just ask your unconscious mind what it needs to learn from this event, the learning of which will allow you to let go of the belief that money makes you bad, easily and effortlessly. Your unconscious mind can preserve these learnings so that if it needs them in the future, they'll be there to protect you, to help you make good choices, to serve you. When you've got the learnings now, please nod. Now go ahead and float back before the first event that you experienced that money makes you bad, well before the event and above it, and turn around to face the future so the event is in front of you and way down below you. Now ask yourself, where is that old emotion that money makes you bad? Is it there, or is it just gone now? Now come back to now over your timeline only as quickly as you could learn to let go of all the beliefs, the negative emotions around money making you bad, all the way back to now. Stop at position B, which is before the event, at each event where there used to be a belief that money makes you bad, applying the learning and letting go of that belief, all the way back to now. Remember, at the unconscious level, time is experienced differently, so your unconscious could take as little time as it wants. Just let go of the negative emotions that money makes you bad, all the way back to now. And when you get back to now, go ahead and float down into now and come back into the room. Can you remember a time in the past where you used to be able to believe that money makes you feel bad or money makes you bad as a person? Go back there now and just check to make sure that the emotion is just gone now. Who wants to share the experience? Anybody have a little bit of a change, or did they pinpoint the moment at which it started to happen? I had a friend, that very wealthy person. I still have that friend. He said a lot of people believe that money makes you bad. He's like, I believe that it just drops the last word off that sentence. A belief that money just makes you something, and what it is something that you give it life to. So it's an interesting statement. You could do this exercise, this script. You could pause it. What I do sometimes, I actually record myself reading the script, and I'll just hover over the mouse and I'll click pause and give myself some more time to go through this, to kind of recall the event. Just remember that the more you're thinking about it, the less effective it's going to be. You shouldn't think about this. You just pop up at the top of your head. It's there. It's in your unconscious mind. All right. Here's the next exercise. Any comments? You pinpointed the moment. That's amazing because you had a little bit of difficulty with this last time, right? Did it come naturally or were you thinking about it? Naturally. Amazing. See that? You're getting in touch with your unconscious. That's very powerful. That's amazing. It's awesome to hear. Because as I remember last time, you had a little bit of difficulty, and that's okay. Sometimes, depending on the mind state you're in, you just can't recall that stuff. All right. Did it pull up emotions around that moment for you? Hopefully not in a negative way, because if you stayed high up enough above them, you remember the moment without feeling the negativity around that moment. All the traveling makes you dizzy. We did a little bit faster, and somebody mentioned slow it down a little, and so I did the second time around. Like I said, when you go in the recording, you could replay this at your own pace and hit pause and allow yourself some time to really absorb this. All right. Next, we're going to move on to overcoming the state of uncertainty when trading. I have something called a resource anchor, but I'm going to teach you guys how to do it as well. So how would you like a turbocharged button for superhuman performance that works? It's like in my car, I have this sport mode, and the superhuman thing about it is the car goes fast, yes, but how much gas it burns, how quickly. So when you press a button, imagine you're able to get into a mindset of superhuman performance and capability. Sort of like the pill in that movie. What was the movie called? I forget even the actor, where it actually involved the finance market. It's coming to me. Limitless. Boom. Thank you, Azalea. It's like Limitless. How would you like a pill like Limitless that's legal and doesn't affect you? Well, I'm going to teach you how to use these anchors. So we're going to go through and anchor a lot of emotions. We're going to do 4 of them. They're very quick exercises. These anchors, basically, I want you guys to do this. Before we do the anchor exercise, I want you to think of a time when you were super happy that was very recent, within the last 2 weeks. All right, just think about that time. See what you saw, feel what you felt, hear what you heard when you felt happiness. You got it? I'm willing to bet you're smiling, at least a little bit. Who was smiling? There you go. Okay, you're smiling because it's impossible. It's a natural physiological human reaction. Now, I want you to think of a time where you had a losing trade. All right? Try to experience the emotion of right after getting out of a losing trade, but smile right now. Put on a forced smile and try to think about that emotional repercussion of your last trading loss. But hold the smile on your face. You can't do it, can you? If you really smile and just put all that you can into smiling and focus on that smile, there's nothing negative that could go through your head. This is a physiological and chemical reaction, and it's shocking. It's amazing. All you got to do is smile. That's why people who smile tend to have more positive thoughts. And people say, well, of course you're smiling. You're super rich. But smiling brings you the wealth and the abundance. And it's not rich in monetary purpose. It's rich in spirituality. It's rich in resourcefulness. It's just rich in how you feel. That's how I define rich. That's cool, right? Now, let's use this, and what this exercise really proves to you is that physiology is affected by mind state, but also mind state is affected by physiology. When you smile, you feel happy. When you're happy, you smile. Those two are interchangeable. All right? So is it that hard to believe that by triggering a physiology event, something on your body, you could trigger a mind state? All right? Who believes that that's true? Do you believe that by doing something physically, you could trigger a mind state? And if you don't believe it, smile, and you'll see how you feel happy. All right. Now, this is what you have to believe that in order for this to work. So what we're going to do is something called the resource anchor. I want you guys to look at your hands, just open up your hands, palms down, and choose a knuckle that you want to use for this. So what it's going to do is when you press that knuckle like a button, it will trigger the emotional state. So when you look at your hands, which one do you want to use? And I'm going to tell you one of them should just pop up naturally. You shouldn't be like, oh, well, I like this one. It should just look at you and say, it's me. Did you guys find one? The one that I use is on my pointer finger on my left hand. That's my resource knuckle for all kinds of awesome stuff. I've anchored it over the last 6 months, and every time I felt super happy, I've anchored it to that. So it's impossible for me to touch it and not smile. I'm doing it right now, and I'm smiling like crazy. Wish you guys could see it. It's pretty nuts, actually. So we're going to create one for you, and you're going to see. All right? So everybody, did someone not choose a knuckle? If you're doing like an earlobe, all right, fine. Try to make it a little bit hidden so people don't know what you're doing. Like, don't do like a monkey pose or like a stretch. Just make it one of your knuckles to start out. All right? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to build the anchor on there of confidence. So close your eyes for a moment and just follow the instructions. Can you remember a time when you felt totally confident? Can you remember a specific time? And as you go back to that time now, go right back to that time, float down into your body, and see what you saw, hear what you heard, and really feel the feelings of feeling totally confident. Do you feel it? Do you see it? And can you hear it? Good. Now make that 10 times bigger. 10 times bigger, 10 times stronger, 10 times more potent. And as you get into the peak of that emotion, with your other finger, slightly touch your knuckle and hold it there for 5 to 10 seconds. And as the emotion starts to fade, remove that finger and let go of the knuckle. All right, what you guys have just done is anchored your knuckle for confidence. Now, it sounds totally crazy that one little thing could create a mind state, but here's how it works. Over the next 1 week until we meet again, anytime you feel confident, anytime you feel any of these emotions that we anchor, I want you at the peak of that feeling to just touch that knuckle again. And when you anchor more and more live scenarios, real situations, the more vivid your imagination around that event, the stronger the event of confidence you felt, the more likely it will to work right away and very strong and powerfully. I use this anchor. I told you guys I've been anchoring for months now for trading. Anytime I get in a little bit of a rut, I'll tap the button, I get superhuman power, and I make a comeback. Everything, all the negativity just melts away. All right? Did you feel? Wow. You know what's crazy? 2 of you guys said that. One said I felt chills. The other one said I got chills doing that exercise. That's freaking amazing. That's exactly what you should feel. Now, don't touch the knuckle yet. Not yet. All right? Now let's go to the next one. Happiness. So close your eyes once again. And as we do this exercise, I want you guys to put as much, guys and ladies, sorry if I keep saying guys, I want you ladies and gentlemen to put as much as you can into generating a vivid experience. I mean, when you feel happiness, I mean just like a total submerge yourself into it, into that one moment. All right? Relive it. All right? So let's do it again. Can you remember a time when you felt totally happy? All right? Can you remember a specific time that you felt totally happy? And as you go back to that time now, go right back to that time, float down into your body and see what you saw, hear what you heard, and really feel the feelings of feeling totally happy. Can you feel it, see it, hear it around you? Now make that feeling 10 times stronger, 20 times stronger. Amplify it to the point that you feel like you're going to burst of happiness. and slightly tap that same knuckle and hold it. And as that feeling starts to fade, quickly release that knuckle. Come back to now and just open your eyes. You guys are powering up. You're powering up already. Perfect. How did that one feel? So we're about to do another one. Chills again. Amazing. Did you notice that the one that you felt stronger about probably gave you a more activated response? If you had a confidence moment that was stronger or a happy moment that was stronger, that one felt more realistic, sort of. You really kind of got into it and you got more chills. It's crazy. Let's do one more. All right. Don't touch that. When we're doing this, don't touch the knuckle until you get into that peak mental state and you're re-experiencing it, and hold it there for 5 to 10 seconds. And I'm going to give you guys more time to do that before I start talking, just to really get you to feel that effect. All right. Let's talk about motivation. Can you remember a time, close your eyes if you don't mind, can you remember a time when you felt totally motivated? A specific time where you were just really motivated. And as you go back to that time now, go right back to that time and float down into your body and see what you saw when you were totally motivated. Hear what you heard and really feel the feelings of feeling totally, absolutely, and completely motivated. Can you feel it? Just see it and just hear what it sounded like. Now explode that feeling and make it 10, 20, 50 times bigger. So much so that it just wants to burst out of your body with motivation. And when you're at the peak, touch your knuckle and hold it. And as the feeling starts to wear off, let go and release that anchor. And open your eyes and come back to the room. So what we're trying to go for here is set the anchor as the feeling's really building up, and have the anchor right for that peak moment and let go. The second we start to feel the motivation sort of slowly drift down, just let go right away. You want to anchor it to the peak state. All right, one more. All right, let's do powerful. All right, guys, close your eyes one more time. Can you remember a time when you felt totally powerful? Just very powerful. And can you remember a specific time when you were just bursting with power? And as you go back to that time now, going right back to that time, floating down into your body and seeing what you saw, hearing what you heard, and really feel the feelings of feeling totally powerful and absolutely powerful. Can you feel it, see it, hear it, experience absolute power? Now make it 50 times bigger. Just make it explode powerfully. And as you get into that peak, hold the knuckle. And as it wears off, let go. And open your eyes and come back to the room. So let me ask you this. Is every time that you're doing it, do you feel it more and more? Like when you do power and you touch the knuckle, do you feel like a boost of even more than just a powerful situation at its max? You should kind of feel like it's nuts when I do it. It doesn't work when somebody else does it to me. My fiance sometimes tries to tap it. It doesn't work. It's not the same. It's just the touch that I have. It's your own interpretation of it. It's really strong stuff. All right. Let's do one more. We'll just do the loved one. All right. This one's very important. This one could get emotional for some people. And if it becomes emotional for you, allow it to do that. Allow it to be that. but in a positive way. All right? So, can you remember a time when you felt totally loved? Can you remember a specific time that you felt totally loved, unconditionally loved? And as you go back to that time now, go right back to that time, float down into your body and see what you saw, hear what you heard, and really feel the feelings of feeling totally, truly, and unconditionally loved. Can you feel it? Can you see it and hear it? Make it 10 times bigger. Just feel being loved truly, unconditionally, deeply, without restraint. I make it 10 times bigger than that and anchor it. And as you stop experiencing it or the feeling starts to subside, let go of the anchor. How did that one feel? All right. Now we're going to do it one last time. Are you guys ready? One last time. This is a special one. Close your eyes. And just very quickly touch your knuckle for 2 seconds. And let go. What did that feel like? Did anyone get like... Rather than chills, my whole hand felt warm with love. It's like an adrenaline rush. Ronnie, that's amazing, man. That's exactly what I feel. I tell that to people and then I try to do it in social settings, but it's not the same as being in the comfort of your own home. There's something about doing it at home and starting out there that really makes it real. And then what I want you guys to do this exercise for the next week, this is my challenge for you. Any one of those times that you feel confident, loved, accepted, powerful, motivated, I want you to go in there and touch the knuckle at the peak state of that feeling and re-anchor it. There's nothing wrong with anchoring multiple moments. The more anchors that you throw onto this, the more real life examples, the more vividly imagined ones, the stronger it becomes. It's a crazy exercise. Now you have an anchor. So if you ever run into trouble trading, if you ever run into trouble in life, if you ever get in a situation that makes you feel a little bit off kilter, fire that anchor and watch how it feels. It's an immediate turnaround from what you're experiencing. And I'll show you why that's important in a moment. All right. So the fear of loss and being wrong is one way you could use to avert this. A fear at the end of the day is just something that you're worried about. It's a worry. And there's a good saying, the only thing you should fear is itself. Well, what do you fear? That you can't continue trading? But what about not trading worries you, right? That you can't live a life of freedom? What about that worries you? That you can't live a life you enjoy on your own terms, right? But at the end of the day, here's some things that I put for coping with fears. And I do this repeatedly. Number one, always trade from awareness state. If you're in hack allow, it's impossible to feel fear because fear is a negative emotion. Fear is an emotion of alertness, but you could be alert and take the learnings from the now moment without the fear, right? So if you trade in hack allow, you're removing fear right away, all right? Verbally stop any negative emotions. Anytime I get a negative emotion that flows through me, I actually say stop. Some people have heard me say that and they find it really weird. Another thing I do that people find weird is I'm a visual person. I'm probably about 45% visual and mostly kinesthetic, which means I feel, right? I'm a feeler. So I'll literally catch and release a thought sometimes. I'll go by my brain, grab it, and throw it out. And it's strange, but that allows me to have a shift in my mindset. So if you have something that allows you to cope with that, it's really helpful. All right. And once you catch and release that negative feeling, immediately replace it with a positive one. Fire off an anchor. All right. Look at one of your affirmations. Look at your gratuity journal. Do something that gets you back in positive mindset, because where you put your energy and focus is what you create. And I'm going to prove it to you in a second with a video. All right. Focus on what you're trading for. Everybody here created a list on what they want. speak with a lot of people. I talk with a lot of people one-on-one. I have a lot of personal relationships that I help people and they help me as well, reciprocal. And I always get the same thing. I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want this. And I ask them, well, what do you want? And it's just a blank slate. It's silence. Just focus on what you're doing it for. You're doing it for freedom, for fun, for success, for independence. Replace that negative thought with a positive one and immediately focus on what you want. Because when you focus, you give intent to your mind. You give instructions to create. And we're going to get into that in a second. All right? When you have a fear of not getting something, that's a focus on not getting it. So if you say, I'm afraid of losing money, you're telling your mind, lose money. All right? What you fear is what you create. And that's why it's very important to remove fear early on. Your subconscious mind creates actions that lead to you not getting what you want because it's what you focus on. You don't get what you don't want. You don't get what you want. You get what you focus on, quite literally. And I'll show you that in a second. All right. And that's how self-sabotage starts, by focusing your attention on the things you're trying to avoid. You're actually steering yourself directly towards them. All right. Here's a quote that I absolutely love. Remember in school when you were told, look, stop imagining stuff. Imagination is going to get you in trouble. Was anyone ever told that by their teacher? You have too much of vivid imagination. Live in reality. Well, everything in this world that you see, hear, touch, and feel started in somebody's mind first. It started in imagination. Imagination is imagination. Right? Stop daydreaming. Exactly. I'll stop daydreaming, Leonard, and start doing something, blah, 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 blah. Something that they believe will give them security and their own values. But it's not aligned to you. And I've been told that too. Stop daydreaming. You're thinking too big. Why don't you just do what other people do? Why do you have to always do it differently? Imagination is imagination. And here's the truth about life. Life is images of your mind expressed. Whatever you think about, whatever you visualize in your head, you're sending an instructional command to create. And very few people believe that. Very few people want to believe that, because some of those people are the ones who have instructions and commands that they're giving on a negative basis. But if you build positive images, if you imagine positive things, you're giving positive commands. I can't tell you how important that is. If somebody asked me, what's the one thing I could do to change everything around, I would just say, think positive. Learn how to stop your mind in a negative rut and switch to a positive mindset. Everything else happens from there. All right. So when you're in a trading state and you start to get negative imagery, change it around or walk away, because you're one step away from sending a command that's going to get you the things you're trying to move away from. All right. Be specific in what exactly you want. That's the other thing. Some of you will say, well, I want to be free. What does free look like? Well, I don't know. Well, how are you supposed to get it? Right? So you have to have an exact image in your head of that of that which it looks like, because that's a command you're sending. Let me give you a cool example here. Did you know that your mind, remember we talked about your mind processing millions of bits, and how many does it actually comprehend? 100 and how many? 26. 126 bits. Of that, simultaneously, your brain can logically only keep track of 7 chunks of data, plus or minus 2. Some people have a superhuman power to have 9. Some have less, 5. I'm going to illustrate a really cool example for you. So what does that mean? That means that you have 7 chunks, and that's all that your mind could multitask. When people say, oh, I'm a multitasker, that's BS. Nobody's a multitasker. Your brain was not designed to be a multitasker. Your computer is, not your brain. Let me give you an example. This is what a typical person would do. You know what? I'm on a diet. I don't want to eat a donut. But today I got to go ahead and buy some diapers for my child. All right. Like, look at him. He looks happy, but, I'm sure there's something back there in the pants. I got to get some diapers. Oh, I got to go online and pay the bills. Totally forgot about the bills. They're overdue. Oh, man, little Johnny. I got to pick up Johnny from soccer. When's he finishing? 7 p.m.? Oh, 7 p.m. That's right when I'm going to go pick up some food. How am I supposed to cook? Oh, all right, I'll get some fast food. And then you say, oh, well, what about that oil change that I got to do? Oh, I'll reschedule it. Oh, let me just grab a coffee on the way back. And your chunks are full. Now let me ask you guys this. What didn't you want to do? What was the first thing I said? What didn't you want to do? You guys, somebody said none of it. Funny, a lot of you said donut. You didn't say eat a donut, not eat a donut. Nobody said not eat a donut. Azalea said eat a donut. Philip said eat a donut. Marjorie said donuts. Ronnie said donut. So even you guys flipped it to a donut. All your mind now thinks about is, holy crap, get a donut. How are you supposed to remember what not to do? Let me give you some statistics. In 12 hours of your day, and half the day, that's most of your waking day. After that, you unwind, get some sleep. You have 99 billion pieces of information that flow through your freaking mind. How is your brain supposed to remember what not to do and how not to do it? How? It can't. It's impossible, because in these 7 chunks, when they get filled up, that's all you got. You got 7 chunks. Your mind is too limited to think in terms of knots. Does that make sense? Do you guys get it now? You have 7 chunks. If you guys want to know, this is covert hypnosis here. If you want to know a way to pass commands to somebody that you think are going to benefit them, never do this in a negative intent. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Negative energy can't be transferred from people to people. It's retained inside. All you got to do is fill up the 7 chunks. If I told you, hey, Leonard, yeah, I should move that donut out of the way. Like, hey, Leonard, I had a grandfather who taught my father how to trade. And then we went from Bulgaria, the airport, it was called in Sofia. The airport was called Airport of Sofia. We actually rented a car from this place called Avis. But you know what? Avis wasn't in Bulgaria at the time. It was called Mavis. It was the time of that. Stop trading bad. And then what we ended up doing, you might not even heard the command. When I fill up your 7 chunks, I have direct contact with your unconscious or subconscious mind. So what I'm saying is, focusing on what you do not want is a direct command to your mind, because it's not capable of processing knots. Isn't that cool? 99 billion thoughts in half a day. How are you supposed to keep track of what you don't want? It creates what you don't want into a command of something you do want. So it's not, if you're not happy with what you have around it, don't be angry at the people around you. Be angry and be responsible for the change of the imagery you're putting out, because what you're thinking inside is what you've created around you. The good news is, if you change the thought pattern, you can create good things around you, or things that you want. All right? Life does not select which thoughts to express and which not to. All right? How would it choose it for you? Therefore, it expresses all of them, regardless of what you choose them to be. If you choose a certain set of thoughts, there's no buffer, there's no filter that says which one should I express, which one shouldn't I, it just does them all. And you'll find that sometimes when we're in a negative space, if you stop and say, wait a minute, what's causing this? Right before that negative space, you thought about some negative imagery. In trading, here's an example. I don't want to lose money. You get stopped out of your trade, you lost money. What caused that loss? You giving yourself a command to lose money. Your unconscious mind goes, all right, you don't want to eat a donut? Here's a donut. Boom, right in front of you. It's kind of like me saying, don't think of a blue tree. Don't think of a blue tree. Don't think of a blue tree. You're thinking of a blue tree. You're an animal. That's what you're made to do, is give imagery and create things, and that's all that you can do. So provide positive commands to your unconscious mind, you get positive results. All right? Make the decision that you are positive. Not that you're going to be positive. Make the decision right now that you already are a positive person. Because now you've created an image, now you've given a positive instructive command, now you're going to start to create change. One of the biggest issues and problems that we do with manifesting is, you say, I really want this new car. All right, what have you created? A state of wanting a new car. What are you going to create for yourself? You wanting a new car. Wanting a new car doesn't mean you're going to get it, it means you're going to want it. If you want a new car, tell yourself, I already got the stupid car. Visualize yourself in it. Now it's a command. Right? The state of wanting creates a reality of wanting. All right? Because you are a cause. I am are the strongest words in this planet. I've told you guys this before. They're the most powerful words, for what you put after them shapes your reality. The life that you live today is the one that you've imagined for yourself. It's the imagery you've put there. Remember, imagination. So flip your vocabulary. Here's some things you could think. All right. I'll help you guys create some SMART goals in the last lesson and help you take them away and work them and create them into your reality. But for now, say I am in positive words only. If you're in a day-to-day conversation, somebody says I am and they're about to say something negative, stop listening. All right. I always say this. I invite you to stop arguing for your limitations. And it takes people, they're like, what? That's not a typical conversational sentence. I'm like, I am inviting you to stop arguing for your limitations. And when people think about it, they realize what I'm saying. All right, so start saying I am. Say I am rich. If rich is still a bad and dirty word for you, say I am wealthy. I am free. Visualize living that right now. Don't visualize yourself wanting it, visualize having it. I am smart. I am capable. I am confident. I am. Only positive things. How many people in your life talk like that? Think about it. Very few. And I'm sure that if you actually looked at those people, those are probably the ones that most people in society would say, hey, they're successful. Or they're the ones that are happy. Success means different things to different people. That's why you got to be specific in what you want. So from now on, I am will only be used in a positive way. All right? I am asking you for a favor to only use positive words after I am. Because I am is a command to your unconscious mind. All right? Remember this formula? We become what we think about. All right? Choose to think about success. If you think about wealth and success, you'll become that without fail. All right? I'm going to show you guys some cool stuff. I'll tell you a quick little story. Stories are very powerful imagery. Has anyone heard of Milarepa? That some call him Milarepa. Repa is a little bit of, in the English language, has a little bit of a different meaning to it. Has anyone heard this? This was a man that lived from 1052 to 1135. All right, after Christ, and AD. So what he did, he's a yogi of Tibet, but he started out as a normal kid who came back from a very, very affluent backing. His parents had money. He was in a village. He was very well off. He was highly regarded. His family had respect, money, security. All right. But it just so happened that his village one day was pillaged. His whole family was killed right in front of him. And as a young boy, he said, you know what? I have the wealth, the fortune. How could this happen to me? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get even with them. And he was actually able to find the killers and kill them. So this is a pretty dark story so far. I'm saying, wait a minute, you said to think positive. Here's where it gets interesting. What he decided to do, he felt unbearable guilt. He said, listen, I took away the people who took my family away. I don't feel any better for it. In fact, I felt worse. This is a real story. All right? So what he said is, I need to get away. I can't be in society. I can't forgive myself for what I've done. He moved to the mountains in Tibet and started living in caves. He isolated himself completely. He said, to the very day that I die, I'm not going to leave the caves. I'm going to isolate and seclude myself. I deserve it. So he got the cause. That's the interesting part. He got the cause. And he went in there. He ate these plants. The chlorophyll in the plants in the mountains turned him green. Not this green, but he did have a slight green hue to him and a little bit of like a greenish tint, not to that extent. All right. When he started to actually focus and started to meditate, started to put visual imagery in his head that was positive, started to get in contact with the environment around him, started to get in one energy, started to feel oneness with the mountains, with the air, with all the natural elements that we so quickly forget about in our modern society. You know, to us, we go to vacation and what we're thinking about the vacation is who's emailed us, who's done this, what's happened here, you know, who's calling, what do I got to do when I get back? We can't shut that part of our mind off. And he had to shut all that out to get back in touch with reality. And he found a really strong unity between his heart and mind connection, and he got on an awake state or expanded consciousness awareness. What you're looking at here is an actual stone. This is actually crazy. people would see him towards the end of his life in his teachings. He did these demonstrations several times. There are people who have witnessed this event, who he would put his hands on the rock, all right, and close his eyes and go in a very deep meditative state. And he would envision that the rock would turn into clay and that his handprint would be able to be left in the rock. And people witnessed this event. And that's a picture of it. And at that age, in those times, I don't know what could have caused that. I don't know what could melt rock to allow you to sculpt it like that perfectly. And there are people who have actually gone in there and put their hands on that, and they said it matches very perfect to a handprint. And there's other ones with the foot and other examples, and there's people have taken pictures with him, not while he was doing it, but that's a product of it. That's interesting, right? Who calls total BS on that? Whose logical mind just snapped in and said, no way? Here's what I'm going to ask you. If you didn't see it happen, how do you know that it didn't happen? Right? And I strongly believe, 100%. I believe there's a theory out there for those of you that are very analytical and mathematical. Check out the theory that life is a simulation, and it's mind-blowing. That this whole thing is a simulated experiment. I'm not going to get into that. It's pretty cool, the statistics they put out. But this is what this Milarepa did in Tibet. He's from Tibet, and he's highly regarded. And what happens is what you give attention to and where you put your intention towards, and if you can amplify that with what you believe in your heart, you get reality. And if you think about everything around you, you've done those three things already, intentionally or not. And through using knots in your head, through telling yourself what you didn't want, you've put intention into creating the things that you told yourself you didn't want because you didn't know that. Now you know you need positive thoughts. Have the belief, put intention behind those positive thoughts, put attention to positive imagery. You're going to get some cool stuff to happen. I want to show you guys something really cool on a video between the heart and the mind connection. So we're going to watch a video here for about 10 minutes. Not 10 minutes, sorry, 5 minutes. And then I got another 5-10 minutes to finish it up. So you guys ready for a video? I went over again. I keep trying to keep this thing to an hour, but I can't. But they're recorded, so you can rewatch them. All right, let's watch a video. This is from a documentary called Unlocking the Simulation Code with Greg Braden. It's called Missing Links, and it's on a platform called Gaia. It's like the Netflix of mindfulness. I think that's actually how they market it. So I'm going to play it for you, and I'm in position to put the audio in here. I'm going to have to be quiet. I have to shut the mic off and flip to my stereo. Once it starts playing, can you guys let me know that you can hear the audio? So I'm going to do it right now.
Scientists discovered approximately 40,000 specialized cells concentrated within every human heart in a way that simply had not been recognized previously. They're called sensory neurites, which is a little bit of a technical sounding word. They are essentially brain-like cells, but they're not in the brain, they're in the heart. They are concentrated in such a way that they're actually called the little brain in the heart. And these cells literally think independently of the cells in our brain. They feel and they remember independently of the neurons in our brain. So what we're talking about are two separate organs, the brain and the heart. However, we also know that there is the potential to harmonize the heart and the brain into a single potent system, to harmonize the heart and the brain through what we call heart-brain coherence. And when we do that, we change our relationship to our bodies, we change our relationship to our physical world. For example, when we harmonize the heart and the brain, we open the doorway to self-regulation of some of the most mystical systems within the human body. We open the door to the self-regulation of deep intuition, for example, on demand, deep intuition when we choose to have it, rather than waiting for the universe to simply surprise us with spontaneous intuition at different times in our lives. We've all experienced spontaneous intuition. When you pick up the telephone to call someone that you care about and they're already on the phone before you dial that number. That's an example of spontaneous intuition. You had that experience, and I know we've all had this from time to time, and we say, that was really interesting. That was cool. Can I do it again? Can I do it again? And this is the key. Can I do it again because I choose to do it, or must I wait for the universe to simply give me that experience whenever it happens to give me the experience? Well, the answer to that question is hinged upon our ability to self-regulate our intuition. We pick up that phone to call someone and they're already there. That is a form of intuition. We had an inner sense to walk over, pick up that receiver or cell phone these days, and dial that number. We had the intuition, possibly subconsciously, and we followed it. If we had consciously chosen to do the same thing, we probably would never make that connection, because the intuition is what connects us with other people. So we harmonize the heart and the brain. We open the door to deep intuition on demand when we choose, because we choose to have that experience. We open the door to deep experiences, direct access to the subconscious, for example. We harmonize the heart and the brain. That's a hotline to the subconscious, and that's important to you and to me for this reason. If we ever choose to change an unhealthy pattern from our childhood, from our parents, from our caregivers when we were young, those deeply embedded subconscious patterns, we must communicate with the subconscious in a language that it recognizes. It's not enough to say a verbal affirmation 1,000,000 times if the subconscious does not register that affirmation. Harmonizing the heart and the brain, it's a hotline directly to the subconscious. Extraordinary states of super learning, precognition, knowing when things are going to happen before they're happening. These are all examples of what happens when we harmonize the heart and the brain. So it's through these experiences of self-regulation, choosing to harmonize the heart and the brain, that we trigger these states, as well as extraordinary states of health. When we harmonize the heart and the brain, it is a catalyst for over 1,300 positive biochemical reactions in your body, a powerful immune response, the release of anti-aging enzymes for extraordinary longevity. So it's healthy, even if you're not into deep intuition or access to the subconscious. It's a really healthy thing to do to harmonize the heart and the brain. Resilience to life stress and life change. Our world is changing. Your world is changing. My world is changing. We've got to find a way to be resilient to this tremendous amount of change. Our bodies can do it. If we tune and harmonize our bodies with the world, heart-brain coherence helps us to do precisely that. So this discovery of these 40,000 neurites in the heart and the ability to harmonize the heart and the brain, it changes everything, the way we think about ourselves and our body. And that's just the first discovery. Second discovery, this is even more fascinating for me. It is a discovery that was made in the year 2004 by Italian scientists. And it is the discovery of what are called mirror neurons in the brain, in the neocortex of the brain. Very specific places in the neocortex is where these specialized cells are found now. What is a mirror neuron? You'll love this. A mirror neuron is a specialized neuron that fires both when we have an experience, and it also fires when we witness the experience, even though we're not really having the experience. Think about what that means. It means that when we watch something, this is why sports is so powerful. We can lie on the couch on a Sunday afternoon and watch a football game. We're lying down. Our hearts are racing. Our bodies may be perspiring. We are agitated. We're excited. But we're not even moving, because our mirror neuron does not know the difference between us watching and having the experience.
There you go. How insane is it? The one thing that I took away from that, and when we do these exercises in neurolinguistic programming, NLP is essentially the practice of harmonizing the heart and brain. When I read the script for anchoring, when I said, hear what you see, hear what you heard, see what you see, felt what you felt, you're connecting the brain to the heart. And the other aspect of that was really crazy to me, that was really enlightening and eye-opening, is the fact that when you actually when you visualize something and do it in person, you're actually getting the same level of experience in your mind. Your mind doesn't know the difference between what you think and what's actually happening. If you remove the brain and hooked it up to electrodes, how would it know? It wouldn't, as long as you're able to send the exact same signals to it to experience the exact same thing as your reality shaping. Isn't that crazy? So when you're sitting at the trading desk thinking negative thoughts, you're experiencing loss before it's even happened. Do you guys realize how powerful that is? That's what sets the course for what actually ends up happening to you, is what you think about and what you put emotion to. There's a saying that what you think and then what you feel is what happens. The feeling is how you magnify it. So if you think about something positive but you don't feel positive about it, it ain't going to happen. That's why an affirmation alone is useless. You got to visualize it and put as much sensory data in there as possible, because then now you start to feel it. Isn't that nuts? Did that blow you guys' mind? Did you enjoy that video? I have one more. This one's only about a minute, and actually, is it? It's 2 minutes. All right. Let me show you this video. This video actually ties this and takes it to another level. So it's in a different episode. So let me flip back onto the other sound device and play it for you.
But what I'd like to do now is share with you a technique so that you can tap these potentials in your life when you choose to do so. What scientists know is that every moment of every day, as I mentioned, there's this conversation. It's a conversation between the heart and the brain. The heart is speaking to the brain, and the quality of the conversation that comes from the heart and the brain tells the brain what chemistry to release into the body. So, for example, when we're feeling emotions that we would typically consider negative, and I don't like to characterize emotions as negative or positive, but I'm doing this so you get a sense for what we're doing here. When we have emotions such as anger, hate, jealousy, rage, what you're seeing on your screen is an actual printout of the quality of the signal from the heart to the brain. And you can see it's very chaotic. It's a very jagged signal. It's a rough signal. And it's that chaotic, jagged, rough signal that signals chaotic chemistry in your brain. This is the kind of chemistry that tells us that we need high amounts of adrenaline, high amounts of cortisol, the stress hormones, to respond to something quickly in life. That's a good thing for a few moments. You don't want to live your life day in and day out like this. The next image that you're seeing is what happens when we can shift our heart-based experiences from things like frustration, anger, hate, jealousy, and rage to things like compassion, care for anything, gratitude for anything, appreciation for anything. And when we can do that very, very quickly, this signal from the heart to the brain shifts, and you're seeing that becomes a very rhythmic, very even, very coherent signal. This is what it's called. And it sends a different signal to our brain, and our brain begins to release a different chemistry into our bodies. Now, I'm saying this to you now because I want you to know that your brain cannot do both things at the same time. It can only do one or the other. So when you are in coherent feeling and that even rhythm, that's what awakens your brain to send powerful healing chemistry, powerful immune response, powerful anti-aging hormones, awakens your senses, turns on the gamma. Okay, and when you are in the rough, jagged signal, that's fight or flight, your body and your brain are saying something important is happening. We've got to run or fight, so we don't have time for healing. We don't have time for an immune response. We don't have time for anti-aging hormones. They're not important. So it shuts off those functions in preferential treatment of this fight or flight.
How did you guys like that video? Now, I got a wow out of it. Perfect. I want to show you something. Let's just pull up this chart. I'm going to summarize your entire trading mindset right here. Who notices something about that top chart? The one that triggered when the heart and mind connection is in frustration or negative and disarray, discombobulated. What do you guys notice with that top chart? Looks like the market, doesn't it? I saw this video. I'm like, no way. That's the market right there. All right. That's the market because it's emotional. It's everything. The market in itself is everything that you shouldn't be. So your goal as a trader is to trade that up top while feeling that down below. Do you guys understand now why scientifically you'll never conquer the market with that type of mindset? Right? You can't. You got to have a positive physiology. You got to have yourself a positive mindset. You got to think positive things in order to create them. Otherwise, you're screwed. You're going to be that top chart. And in that top chart, cortisol comes out. You get stressed out. Fight or flight is a very dangerous state to be in 8 hours a day. You're going to have a heart attack. All right? Fight or flight helps you survive, but you're not going against a caveman fighting for territory, fighting for life. You're just trying to earn a living. So, and that's how you associate that with appreciation, that with your goals. Have positive imagery. You want to create the bottom graph. You want to harmonize with what you're doing. You don't want to self-sabotage. From the top chart, only self-sabotage could happen. All right. And I thought that was incredibly mind-blowing for me. I had a mind-blown moment when I first saw it. I'm like, I'm going to let these guys see it. I don't care what Gaia thinks about me sharing that content. All right, let's wrap this up. I want to tell you guys one thing, and we're going to wrap up and conclude this lesson. And from next Tuesday forward, we're going to talk more tangible scenarios during trading. But I'm going to bring you back to this occasionally. But this sort of concludes the deep dive into the mind. I'm going to tell you guys something. Leonard, I know you're somewhere in the United States. Wendy, I know you're in California. All right, Phil, I know you're also in California. I know everyone here is across the globe in this webinar. But I'm going to tell you something. We are all connected at the very instant in a very real way. When you look at this picture and you look at above the water, what do you see? Air. Right? You see air. You see void. Is that true? You see void. Like, look at all that air. The mountains are solid, but the air is not. And you look at the water and you say the water is solid. In a quantum look of the world, if on a quantum level, everything is matter. Even the air is made out of matter. There is no void. Void does not exist. We're actually more like the water. We're all one body of water. You might be a little warm spot in the water. I might be a cold spot or vice versa. But we are all connected. We all flow with the same fabric. And that's on an atomic quantum level. And the crazy thing about that is this. I'm going to get to these 10 steps in a second very quickly. I need to tell you about this one thing. All you have is right now. The way to start changing and shaping your reality is to stop caring about the past. Stop living through your past experiences. Take the learnings from them and apply it to now. That's what we did with our time techniques. Don't worry about the future. The future will never happen if you don't work on the now. The now is all the positive imagery. One of the famous scientists, Schrodinger, he had a cat experiment. It's a thought experiment, so no cats were harmed in this. He said if you put a cat in a box and you allow an atomic reaction to set off the drop of this hammer that breaks the liquid and triggers a nuclear release of gas that's going to kill the cat, it's a random probability event of that atom triggering it the right way. All right? And he said if you close that box and you don't look at the mechanism, that cat is both dead and alive. When do you actually experience the event? When you open the box to check. All right? So what I'm going to tell you is right now, as you sit here, this very moment, the life that you want and the life that you have and a million other variations of your life are all happening at the same time. The one that you live and experience is the one that you choose. All right? Because you have an infinite amount of possibilities that could happen. What you decide to focus on is what you create. It's that simple. I can't put it in any more simplistic terms than that. So is this cat dead and alive? It's both. You choose when you open the box. All right? On a quantum level, there's a lot of mind-blowing theories that will really prove to you that when you actually observe an event is when that event occurs. It doesn't occur until you observe it. And through positive imagery, you get to choose what to observe. All right? So I thought this was a cool experiment. You got clay in your hands. You could mold anything you want. What you create with it is up to you. I just want to see you create positive pottery. All right, now let me give you the 10 steps. Step number 1, meditate regularly. I meditate twice a day, usually in the morning. The best time to do it is when you're waking up, because you cross through the deeper state of consciousness to the awake state. You have no choice but to pass through the meditative state. And that's the best place to meditate. When you meditate, don't expect things to happen. Expect nothing to happen. That's the point of meditation. It's to let go of all your thoughts, and it's to relax, and something incredible happens. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Spoiler alert, you connect to a higher source of energy that you never thought was possible, that you'll never get to by thinking about all these cats, things flying around, you're going to pick up your kids, food, all that stuff. That's a distraction. When you sit and you meditate, you connect to a recharging station that's insane. All right? It's got physical benefits for the very least of the reasons that you should try it out. It's got physical benefits. Practice gratuity. Every evening, me and my fiance, like I said, say 3 things to one another. Since we've met, we've done that. Actually, not since we met, about a year and a half since we met, we started doing it informally. Now we formally do it every night. Practicing gratuity. I can't be a politician with that sentence anymore. Have positive visualizations. If you get to create whatever you think about, why think about anything else but positive stuff? Why choose to create commands that aren't going to help you or fulfill your desires? You deserve the best. Every one of you deserves the best. Every one of you is an abundant being that can get anything they want. Choose to get it. Don't choose the other lifestyle by giving yourself negative visualizations. Have positive thoughts, and you're going to have positive surroundings. You're going to gravitate towards positive things. You're going to open up, when you align your mind and heart, you open up yourself to intuition, and things are going to start to come to you that you're like, where did that come from? I've had those thoughts. Sometimes I go to bed, I'll be like, listen, I want an answer to this. I think about it, I visualize how it would help me. I wake up in the morning, I don't have the answer. I go take a shower, it just pops in my head. Something I logically would never have been able to come up with. Just drops in. It's there for you. You're connected to a higher power. Whatever that higher power is, some call it God, some call it a higher power, some call it source energy. It's out there. It's not for you to quantify, it's for you to use. All right? Give as much as you can and do not expect to receive. Have no expectation from anyone to give you anything. You don't owe anything to anyone, and nobody owes you. All you do when you give stuff is give for the gift of enjoyment, of fulfillment, of happiness. All right? You don't owe anyone anything, and nothing is owed to you. All right? Practice oneness. I always see this. So I remember somebody just mentioned in the webinar today, they said, when I drive around and I see a homeless person, I feel for them. And I do too, and that's natural. That's a good thing. You're supposed to feel for people. When somebody cuts me off on the highway, I like to think, well, geez, I wonder what happened to them to make them feel that way. Let me send them some positive vibes. And I think about them going home, having a happy dinner with their family, because that's what I want for them. All right? We're all one. If we're all one, if you do harm to somebody else, you're doing it to yourself. All right? That's what we mean by practicing oneness. Everything's one. We're all connected. We're an ocean. There's no air. Start seeing things as an ocean. The person, I think I was reading somewhere a stat that every 30 days, your entire cellular structure changes and gets refreshed on a new atomic level. So that means, and those atoms go and they change somebody else. So we're actually exchanging the same makeup of what we're made of on a continuous basis. We are one. You can't debunk that. It's a proven fact. All right? Stay in Hakalao state. Eat healthy. Healthy eating gives you healthy energy. I'm a proponent of this. Not lately. You can't always do it. Never beat yourself up. If you miss a meal, be positive. Go back to number 4. Think positive. But you know what? I'm going to eat the next meal. Imagine yourself eating a healthy one, and you'll create it. All right? Exercise, and most of all, live passionately. If you take these 10 steps and you print them out, I'm going to actually create a list and attach it to the resources. If you can just check off a couple of these a day, trading will be the least of your concern. Right? You're going to master trading very easily with practicing these. The most ironic part is that today I go out and put a video of how to be rich trading, and I told people you got to start, you just got to start consistently small, etc. But it's so much bigger than that. This is more important than anything I could teach you in terms of trading strategy. If I teach you a strategy, but you go and sabotage it with negative thoughts, it's worthless. It's only going to give you the result that you already pictured and impressed from your mind. Remember, life is images of the mind expressed. All right, guys, any questions so far? I'll give you the superhero pattern in a recorded format. You know what? We'll do it starting next session. It's about an 8-minute thing, and I think you guys, your brain's just gonna explode. I packed this one too, so I'm gonna start off with this next lesson. Is that okay? We're gonna start with the superhero pattern. This is very deep. Get ready to start on like 6th gear next week on Tuesday, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'll open up for you. When I did the superhero pattern, I cried like a little girl or a little boy. I just cried uncontrollably. It happened. And that's okay. That's a natural reaction, but it was very empowering, and it changed. Like, I could still get shivers from it because I know the change it had for me, this one little thing. So it's a little bit of a script that I read. It's a visualization exercise. It's very powerful. What time is it? Nah, it's too late. I don't want to make this a marathon. We'll do it next week. Tuesday, we'll start off with this. Any questions or comments? Next lesson, superhero pattern, and then we get into the tangibles. Trading self-sabotage cycle. I'll tell you how to identify each state of the cycle, how to terminate it. It's called a cycle termination strategy. I can do a little trading hypnosis for you and give you a pattern interrupt. All right, so a lot of people ask me, what's a pattern interrupt and that's a pattern interrupt. I'll show you ways that you could do it to help your trading. All right, questions, comments, concerns, emotional breakdowns? Of happiness, right, Len? Use those anchors, guys. Use those anchors this week. That's your challenge. I'm leaving you off with the challenge. Throughout the next week, anything positive that happens, anchor it to yourself, and you'll see what a big difference it makes. I think this is a good way to end the lesson. You guys have yourselves a great week. Have yourselves a great evening, the rest of your evenings. Speaking of oneness, I feel through these webinars like we are one, and I put my energy out there to you guys like we are one, like you're just family at the table. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you guys a lot. I'm grateful for you, and I look forward to see you next Tuesday. I'll wrap up the lesson here tonight. Take care. All the best to you and your families, and we'll see you tomorrow for day trading or next week for the course. Take care. Adios, and have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Goodbye.